Hi, Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone, especially to our lecturer, Dr. Fatin Faras. So for today, we will be presenting about our lab assignment 2, and the topic is about the relationship between population, GDP per capita, unemployment rate and GNI per capita in New Zealand. Right. So presenting today will be me, myself, Luqman Hadi, followed by Muhammad Faris, and we'll wrap up by Nur Shafawani. Right. So just a little introduction of what we're going to do today. Alright, so for today, we will be using our multiple regression analysis tool in Excel, and we have chosen population as our dependent variable. Right, so for independent variable, the first one we chose GDP per capita, the second one we chose unemployment, and the third one we chose GNI per capita. Right, so we specifically chose New Zealand as our sample of study because New Zealand has an advanced economic market system and were ranked 14th in the world based on the Human Development Index in 2019. Right, and also a little introduction. In 2020, New Zealand has the least rate of unemployment, which were ranked at which were valued at 5.4%, compared to China, which was valued at 4.5%, and United States, which were valued at 7.9%. Right. So next, we look into the first section, which is the multiple linear regression. Alright, so this regression will be between GDP per capita and the population. And the equation goes by y equal to 35.723x, 35.732x plus with 3 exponential 6, right? So this one, we believe that there's a linear relationship between the population and the GDP per capita, right? Next, the unemployment versus the population. Alright, so the equation is y equal to negative 155,411x plus with 5 exponential 6. We believe that there is a non-linear relationship between the population and the unemployment. Next is between GNI per capita and population, and the equation is y equal to 37.781x plus with 3 exponential 6. We believe that this has a linear relationship between the population and the GNI per capita. Alright, moving on. We're going to look into the summary statistics. Alright, so based on the table shown, the adjusted R squared 92.47% indicates that the variation in population, which is the DV, is explained by the three independent variables. Right. So it also means that the 7.53% is explained by all other variables that is not included in this slide. Right. Now we have a look into the ANOVA. Right. So since the significance F is below 5%, we have to reject our null hypothesis. Therefore, our all independent variables explaining variation in dependent variable model are fit. It also means that our overall model is significant. Right. Next, the t-test. Right. So same things, since significance p-value is below 5%, we have to reject our null hypothesis. Therefore, all independent variables such as the GDP per capita, unemployment, and GNI per capita explaining variation in independent variable model are fit. Right. So next is coefficient. Right. So basically what coefficient tells is if the GDP per capita increases by 1 point, the population will decrease by 11.83 people or point in value. Same goes to unemployment and GNI per capita. But overall, we can tell that GNI per capita has larger impact on the population as compared to other two variables. Right. So for confident intervals, it basically tells the displacement between the probability that the parameter will fall between a pair of values between the mean. Alright. So for confidence intervals, we also want to measure the degree of uncertainty in the sampling method. So basically, if we want to find the population value, we have to look at the intercept level at each of the interquartile range. Either it's a lower 95% or the upper 95%. and we will have the estimation value shown in the table. Right.
Now we continue to the test on assumption. Firstly is the linearity. There is linearity between GDP per capita and population, and non-linearity between unemployment and population. Also, there is linearity between GNI per capita and population. Next is normality. Residual histogram appears slightly skewed, but is not a serious departure. Next is homoscedasticity. The GDP per capita residual plot appears that is a homoscedasticity. Unemployment is hetero because the shape is like this, and the last one, GNI per capita residual plot, have a homoscedasticity. Next is autocorrelation. There is no autocorrelation because the number is not in range on Durbin-Watson, the statistic. We continue to the correlation analysis. This is result on correlation. The correlation between GDP per capita and unemployment is negative 0.5793. The correlation between GDP per capita and GNI per capita is 0.9851. And lastly, the correlation between unemployment and GNI per capita is negative 0.5521. The correlation between GDP per capita and GNI per capita have exceed 0.7, so it indicate that multi-correlity, then we need to remove the either one lah.
So to conclude our presentation on the multiple regression analysis, we believe that all the three independent variables, at least 9/10% explain the population, which is a dependent variable. Right.
So next for question 2-1 Roman, customers with average living cost above 3,000. Firstly, there are 5 steps for these questions, which is stated the hypothesis HO, average living cost above 3,000, and H1, average living cost of the customers below 3,000. Before that, for a little reminder, all the functions that involve numbers, you have to use open bracket, insert the value, and close the bracket. Secondly, the level of significance is alpha 5%. Thirdly, selecting test statistic which t-test and 34 for the respondent and populations variance unknown. In this step, we have to find sample mean response time, and the formula is average B3 through B37, which is from living cost, and you will get the answer is 4079.4118. Next, you have to find the median, which is the formula is median B3 through B37, and you will get the answer is 3000. In addition, find sample standard deviation, and the formula is stdev.s B3 through B37, and the answer is 3748.8406. And you have also to find number of observation for sample n. For this one, you use the formula count A3 through A37, which is the respondent, and the answer is 34. For the square root is using the formula SQRT34. 34 is taken from n, which is the number of respondent. The answer is 5.8310. Lastly, for step 3 is t-test. It doesn't need the function, but what you have to do is take the answer from what you have calculated. Sample mean response time minus with median divided by sample standard deviation minus with square root, and you will get the answer is 1.6789. But don't forget to use open and close the bracket when to calculate them. Fourth step is to determine decision rule. To find critical t-test, before you go to the formula, you have to solve two things, which is 1 minus alpha 0.05 and degree of freedom, and minus 1, which is 34 minus 1, and you can use the formula TINV 0.95, 33 and get 1.6924. Next, find p-value. To find the p-value, you have to use the formula the value of t-test, degree of freedom, and true. And the answer is 0.9487. Lastly, drawing the conclusion. From all the steps that have been calculated, the t-test is lower than critical value and have failed to reject HO. Meanwhile, p-value is greater than alpha, which means also failed to reject HO. Therefore, there is no sufficient evidence to support the claim that the sample average living cost of the customers is lower than 3,000. For question 2 to Roman, we use chi-square, which is non-parametric method if the populations data are not normally distributed. Firstly, determine HO and H1. HO is the numbers of vacation days taken per year and levels of education are independent. Meanwhile, H1 is the numbers of vacation days taken per year and levels of education are dependent. Next, we have to do pivot table, which the row is the variance of education levels, column is vacation days taken per year, and the values is count of respondent, and you will get the pivot table as shown in this slide. Next step is you have to copy pivot table and paste the value to create a table for observed value, which is for F0. Another step is to calculate estimate value, FE. Copy and paste again table from F0 to create FE. For estimate value, to calculate each level of education is grand total F0 for each education times with grand total vacation per year F0 divided by grand total overall F0. To calculate the grand total FE for each column, use functions sum data range. Next step is find the chi-square. To find each level of educations and each columns, the formula is open bracket F0 minus FE, the power of 2 and divide by FE. And to find the for grand total, each column is use function sum data range. Grand total overall for chi-square is 7.8147, which is the test statistics. Done this part, and now to calculate the critical chi-square and p-value. To find degree of freedom is row which 4 minus 1 times column which is 8 minus 1, and you will get 21. To find chi-square critical value is use the function as stated in the slide. Chi-square 0.05 for alpha, 21. So basically 21 is from DF, and you will get the answer 32.6706. In order for you to reject or not reject the critical value, is you need to compare the test statistic chi-square with chi-square critical value. The test statistic value is lower than critical value, so you fail to reject HO. Next, p-value is greater than alpha, so you also fail to reject HO. In a nutshell, no need to accept H1. Therefore, the numbers of vacation days taken per year and levels of education are independent.